What up, nerds, and welcome to another sinful episode of Straight Chilling, the weekly horror movie review show where you chill and we kill, slice, dice, and chop up yet another horror movie. My name is Bob. I'll be your host for the evening. This is episode 453, recorded on Tuesday, December 12th, 2023. Tonight we're talking about the final Patreon pick of the year. This one was chosen by Alex K, and the movie is Se7en from 1995. Before we get into it, let me introduce everyone else on the show. First up, calling in from Washington, D.C., we got your boy Randeezy. What's up, man?
The hunka chunka.
How we doing, buddy? Good to hear from you. You know, how you been? How's your mother?
My mother's great. We've managed to dodge all 7 of these deadly sins, you know.
Wow. I have high levels of doubt, but sure.
Matrix style, just bending over backwards. You can't touch me. You can't do it.
I've never lusted before in my life.
I'm still alive. It's proof. It's proof. Last but not least, calling in from Florida, we got your boy Soju. What's up, man?
Oh, what up? It's your boy Lusty McLuststains. Let's get our lust on today, boys.
Lusty lusty licky lust.
A lust stain is just not very becoming, I gotta say.
Well, you know, that's where they come from, so.
Get out of here, you nosy little pervert, or I'm gonna slap you silly.
Oh, boy. We've
Uncle
all been
Frank
there.
gets wrath for sure.
He gets cheapskate. That's one of the 7, right?
Yes. Greed? I guess that could kind of be greed.
Yeah.
When he's stealing all the shit out of the first class plane. Put it in your purse.
Put it in your purse. Put it in your purse.
This is real crystal. Put it in your purse.
Would Kevin give
And
it?
he's
Dad's paying good money for this.
I don't
shrimp.
know. Glutton when he's pounding the shrimp, dude.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's for later,
Oh, he's just offering the shrimp. Frank
Later.
Frank is not on screen in that movie for a second where he's not being a huge pile of shit.
We're talking about Home Alone tonight. Surprise.
Yeah, we're talking about Home Alone 1 and 2.
We're
And
reviewing Home Alone.
Double feature.
the cooter of the week is, of course, Uncle Frank.
Uncle Frank's a piece of shit.
Yeah, he is. It's weird. I mean, it's strange to watch your uncle shower. Let's just get that on the record, right? That's a little awkward.
I mean,
Oh, wow.
yeah.
What's wrong with
Different
that?
strokes, Bob. Different strokes.
I'm a bit of a prude, I guess. I apologize.
You are.
Call in, let us know.
Peanuts in your face.
Do you watch your uncle bathe? We want
Uncle
know.
Peanuts in your face.
Goodness gracious. Gentlemen, let's tackle a little bit of housekeeping real quick. Here is yet another reminder. We do have our January poll posted over on our Patreon website. If you support us at the $5 level or above, you get the chance to vote on a movie we're talking about this January. The theme for January is shit we missed in 2023. And it is a mega double stuffed poll because there's so many movies we didn't get to. So we got 6 movies to vote between. And they are...
What they is?
They are Mithrigan, No One Will Save You, Onyx the Fortuitous, They Clone Tyrone, VHS 85, and When Evil Lurks.
Whoa,
Man.
Bob. How these numbers looking? All spread out?
Yeah, they have shifted slightly. When Evil Lurks is still in first place with 36%. Mithrigan in second place with 24%. Then we have They Clone Tyrone with 16%. Then we've got a tie between No One Will Save You and VHS 85, both with 12%. And Onyx the Fortuitous still sitting with a goose egg.
Oh,
Poor Onyx.
Yeah. Well, with so many movies, you know, just a couple votes can really shift the weight around. So
True.
Yeah. Don't be afraid to throw your weight around, people.
Throw it
Go
around.
politicking
go
for it.
vote.
Throw it around.
Yeah. Well, good choices.
Hey,
Yeah,
way
I'm
to
excited.
go,
Mostly
us.
good choices.
Way
Yeah,
to
we
go,
really
us.
picked some good choices.
Right on. Yeah, get your votes in before the end of the month, and we'll see what we're talking about this January. In other Patreon news, we just dropped another mini-cast last Friday, and Juice was talking about a brand new Shudder Christmas horror movie called It's a Wonderful Knife. It's good, great, amazing, perfect.
It is a wonderful knife. That much we can be sure of.
Wonderful.
It's a pretty good knife.
No, it's a decent Christmas slasher. It's all right. It'll scratch that itch, I think, for the Christmas time season. Which, boys, I mean, we've only got about a week and a half left to go, and then we're shifting into wrapping this year up. You know.
Yeah. And then Halloween season, January 1st.
And then, yeah.
Right back
and
into
then
it.
right back in
begin.
Halloween season.
We'll cover it later, but I have not even begun really digging into holiday favorites until this week. I got into a couple, but Jesus Christ,
Randy, I mean,
I've been too fucking busy with like major shit happening in the world and life of mine.
Do less. Care less. What are you doing?
I should be prioritizing these films, of course, that I've seen.
I mean, I was able
bunch
to
of times.
balance Rob's wedding and watch 70 Christmas horror films at the same time.
How did you do that with only one 15-hour flight?
70. Good Lord. Yeah, so check out our minicast on It's a Wonderful Knife over on Patreon. In other Patreon news, we are reopening the You Pick the Flick tier this Sunday, December 17th. This is the only way you can outright pick a movie for us to review on the show. We do this once a quarter, and there are only 5 spots per quarter. They typically go pretty fast, and we are opening the tier at an undisclosed time of day on Sunday, December 17th. You just got to check our Patreon website and hope that it's open, and if it is, grab a spot.
Yeah. Good luck, everyone.
Good luck, Godspeed.
New year. Yeah. Give us some good picks.
Please.
Please.
Man, I can't wait for the bloodbath as always.
Yeah. Let's see who's getting Twister this time. Who's getting Casper? What are we doing? Let's
wow.
So this is just wish list time? I'm sorry.
Please.
I didn't know that this was.
well, let's just do
These
Godzilla
campaigns
98
just start
again.
earlier and earlier
That's
every
fine.
year.
5 more times. We just review Godzilla for a month straight.
We gotta review,
Dude, if we're gonna review
Godzilla 98
anything,
for every box of Godzilla 98 Bob owns. So like
Look
10
at
more
that.
times.
Well, that's 5 more
That's not
times.
happening. I quit.
So mark your calendars.
yeah.
Sunday, December 17th. You pick the flick. And the last thing that I have is we're doing another watch party this Friday, the 15th. Joe Bob's doing a Christmas double feature.
No, not again.
Again. Joe Bob's back in town with a Christmas double feature on Shudder starting at 9 p.m. Eastern. If you guys want to join in on the watch party, we will post links to join via Zoom on all of our social media accounts just before 9 Eastern. Friday the 15th. Come hang out with us.
Cool. What do you think?
Hell yeah.
What's your guesses for this time?
Dude, he's talking about like getting like an organ that gets baked, like an organ that gets baked, and then a human that gets fully baked, is what he said. And I'm like, one of those has to be Ginger Dead Man, unless it's like, but it's too easy for Joe Bob. Like,
yeah, usually they're really obscure and difficult to guess. I think The Brain is a really solid guess because that matches the half-baked organ thing, and also it is kind of a Christmas
I haven't
movie.
seen that.
It's a sneaky Christmas movie.
Whoa.
There you
Put
go.
it on the list.
So Ginger Dead Man and the Brain, that's what we're calling. What's Vegas say about this?
60%.
What are the odds?
60-40.
Oh shit.
Pump those
We need
numbers
a-
up. Those are rookie numbers.
We need to start running bets on Joe Bob, you know?
Hey, money line.
If we start doing that, we should probably not announce it on our podcast.
and make
We'll
weird
get our boy Mikey on that, you know? We'll kind of separate
parlays.
ourselves a little bit.
You can parlay on the day if you want to. Guess what Darcy's going to cosplay as, whatever.
We're all big gamblers
Ooh.
here.
Yeah, I just spread it around.
I got a good head for numbers, so
Right on. That's all I got. Do you guys have anything you need to plug?
Oh, yes. I've got a couple things. So this just dropped a couple days ago, but my coverage of Eyes Wide Shut for Christmas season with Caitlin from Plug It Up is now available for you to watch on YouTube. So we talked about that movie for almost 2 hours. It was a good discussion, a lot of fun. Always enjoy talking with Caitlin. She's fantastic. So yeah, please check that out up on our YouTube page. Also, before Christmas comes out, so you have a week and a half. I'm not sure exactly when it'll be coming out, but I'll also be featuring on a non-horror podcast. So if you want to hear me nerd out about Arctic monkeys, then you can listen to...
Who the fuck's Arctic monkeys?
Exactly.
Good question.
Exactly. So you can listen to me on a podcast called Don't Believe the Hype, where I will be a guest for the Christmas episode. That's why I know it'll be coming out sometime before Christmas. And yeah, we're just going to be kind of nerding out on some Arctic Monkey stuff, playing some games, some Christmas themed things as well. So yeah, check that out. Get a double shot.
Gonna tell them about the time we saw them play. What is it? Get that song from the fucking Where the Wild Things
Where
Are.
the Wild Things Are. Yeah.
What is that fucking song?
That has never ever been recorded.
Grow Up, Get Up. Yeah. What the fuck? We just heard them fucking around.
Yeah. We are the only ones who have ever heard Arctic Monkeys perform that song.
That's why you just
the only people besides a
backstage.
guitar tech or some shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just accidentally.
Yeah. We legit
doe-eyed
into that
teenagers.
shit.
Oh my God, it's them. They didn't write
Prepare
this
your
song.
brain for Razzle Dazzle.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, awesome. Anything else, boys?
So we're
Not a-
coming up on the end of the year too. I'm kind of doing some housekeeping. I don't know
Ooh.
exactly what's going to be coming up, but you might just see some like random videos pop up on our YouTube too, as I realize like, oh shit, I got all this content that I never released this year. So we'll see. Maybe just keep.
You know what you should do?
Little surprise
more.
Christmas box, you know.
Mystery vids. Check them out.
Yeah, you know. So just keep an eye out on the YouTube.
Very special.
Also, too, I feel a little obligated to mention that we're around the 1 year anniversary of our documentary coming out, Solid 1 Star.
Oh,
So
yeah.
if you would like to revisit that, you know,
It's
how about it?
pinned to the top of our YouTube page.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We got a
Man.
full like hour-long documentary talking about the history of straight chilling.
Check
I
it
didn't
out.
think that YouTube guidelines allowed for masturbation on their platform, but I guess that's fine.
verbal
Oh,
masturbation.
they do. So yeah, I think that's all my housekeeping.
I'm good, baby.
Squeaky clean.
This house is clean.
All right, let's get into the main event. We're talking about Se7en, and we're kicking it off with what's on the back of the box.
That's the bump.
Fantastic. Se7en, released in 1995, rated R with a runtime of 2 hours and 7 minutes. This was directed by your boy David Fincher, written by Andrew Kevin Walker, stars Morgan Freeman, Brad Pitt, Kevin Spacey, Gwyneth Paltrow. Plot synopsis brought to you by the back of the box is as follows. Two cops track a brilliant and elusive killer who orchestrates a string of horrific murders, each kill targeting a practitioner of one of the 7 deadly sins. Gwyneth Paltrow also stars in this acclaimed thriller set in a dour, drizzly city, sick with pain and blight. David Fincher guides the action, physical, mental, and spiritual, with a sure understanding of what terrifies us, right up to a stunning denouement that will rip the scar tissue off the most hardened soul. What a fucking
Denouement?
synopsis. Wow.
Denouement?
Yes.
Denouement?
Denouement.
Yes, okay.
General Mangs, had you seen this movie before, and would you recommend folks check it out? Randy, kick us off.
Yes, I have absolutely seen this before. At one time I did own it. I guess I got rid of it or something. I don't know how, but it's gone. So yeah, I have seen this. I definitely recommend it. I think that goes without saying. This is one of those movies whose reputation is pretty sterling for the most part with general audiences. So yeah, recommend.
Right on. Juice, what about you?
Yeah, I've seen this many a times. I don't know how many times or necessarily even when the first time I saw it is, but yeah, I'm very familiar with this film and I would recommend people check it out. I would say this is, I mean, you know, within the year where we've been covering a lot of like Saw films and stuff like that, I would say this is one of the most influential films of the 90s, like it's horror films, dark films. And I've got like several notes to kind of like reference some things, you know, coming out of it, I think, but
kind of putting one foot into the towards the
section.
The hostile section of the like it's moving that direction towards brutality.
I bet, yeah, but even just some of
grittiness.
the bleaker outlooks that I think come with the later 90s. But yes, I would recommend people check this out. Bob, how about you?
Yeah, I'd seen this several times before and definitely recommend checking it out if you haven't seen it already. Fincher's like very influential just in general, but I think this movie specifically, like you were sort of getting at, is extremely influential. Even still today, like stuff that's coming out clearly takes from this. So yeah, we'll get into all that. Definitely check it out if you haven't seen it. And this is for sure a movie that you don't want to have spoiled for you. So if you haven't seen it, pause the podcast, go watch it, come on back, and finish us up. We're going to spoil... Huh?
Yeah. Nothing. Go ahead.
Okay. We're going to spoil the shit out of this movie, and here comes your warning.
Spoiler warning.
Bob, hit me with all the nitty gritty details in that plot synopsis.
I'm going to hit you, baby, one
Emphasis
more time.
on gritty.
Nitty and gritty.
Just
All right.
give me the gritty details.
I'll keep the nitty all to myself.
Ooh, please do.
So, yep, here goes the plot synopsis for Se7en. In a large city riddled with crime, hardened detective Somerset is 1 week from retirement. He's paired with a newly transferred detective, Mills, to investigate an obese man who is forced to eat spaghetti until his stomach burst. The word gluttony is then found written on the wall of the crime scene. Somerset asked to be taken off the case because it's just too brutal an end to his career, but he is denied. The following day, they investigate yet another murder where the victim was forced to cut a pound of flesh from their body, and the word greed is written in blood on the floor. They find clues that then leads them to a third victim. This one is a drug dealer and pederast that was strapped to a bed for an entire year, representing sloth. Somerset and Mills connect the very obvious dots and surmise the killer is inspired by the 7 deadly sins and expect to find 4 more victims. Mills' wife Tracy invites Somerset over for dinner, which is a very pleasant evening. Tracy then later asked to have breakfast with Somerset, unbeknownst to her husband, where she confides in him that she's pregnant and regrets moving to the city, which she sees as an unfit place to raise a child. Somerset offers advice. He says she should only tell her husband she's pregnant if she intends to keep the baby. Somerset ends up using a contact to pull library records to see who's checking out books on the 7 deadly sins, which leads them to a one John Doe's apartment. This proves to be the killer's apartment and results in a foot chase where Mills is injured. The police find lots of cash and hundreds of notebooks filled with insane babbling in the apartment. The next day, they investigate another murder where a man held at gunpoint was forced to have sex with a prostitute while wearing a bladed strap-on, which represents lust. And the following day, they investigate yet another crime scene. This one is of a woman who chose to commit suicide rather than live with a disfigured face that was provided to her by John Doe, which then represents pride. Then, to everyone's great surprise, John Doe walks into the police station and turns himself in. He says he will admit to all the murders and explain everything as long as Mills and Somerset escort him to the following 2 victims. If they refuse, the 2 victims will never be found, and he will claim insanity in court. They agree and drive him out to the middle of nowhere. All the while, John Doe is aggravating the shit out of Mills. They get out of the car and walk into the middle of the desert. Somerset sees another vehicle approaching. He jumps in the car, drives towards it, and gets out. It turns out it's just a driver delivering a package. Somerset opens the box and is horrified at its contents. Meanwhile, John Doe explains to Mills how envious he is of his life and his happy wife. He's so envious he paid his wife a visit earlier and took her head. He also says she begged for her own life as well as the life of their unborn child. Mills is obviously enraged by this and ignores Somerset's pleas. Although John Doe clearly wants Mills to embody rage and shoot him, he cannot help himself and does exactly what John Doe wants him to do and shoots him dead. Gotcha! Yes. Mills is then escorted away, and Somerset does retire. The movie ends with a voiceover by Somerset saying, quote, Ernest Hemingway once said, "The world is a fine place and worth fighting for. I agree with the second part." Roll credits.
You know what strikes me about that, like just you summarizing the plot, is that it almost sounds like a campfire tale. It's stripped of a lot of that extra stuff. It just kind of seems like a ghost story that you tell around a campfire. You know what I mean? Which I think is great considering how much like they build into that, how much meaning they put into that. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It reminds me of like the story about the person, the robber who killed the lady's dog and licked her hand to make her think the dog was still alive. That sort of shit. You guys like, I don't know. It's just brutal, and like the way you imagine it in your head is pretty brutal. But like this movie actually makes good on the promise of a ghost of a not ghost story, but a campfire tale.
Yeah, they definitely don't pull punches at the end. It like doesn't. I guess it kind of does pull a bit of a punch in that it doesn't ever show you what's in the box, but it's alluded to. So, you know, your imagination just kind of runs wild. But they do like go with a dark ass ending, which is something that Hollywood tends to try and avoid oftentimes. And they did try and avoid it in this movie. I think it was Brad Pitt just said he was going to walk off if they were going to change the ending. So they left it as it was.
What was, do you know details about what it was going to be?
I'm not sure if they were gonna not have the head in the box,
not be the box,
or if he was gonna not kill John Doe. I forget what the change
It's a big
was.
dilder. What is this for?
What is it?
Oh, what a great present! Thanks, John.
Well, also too, just a couple weeks ago, we were talking about The Mist and how infamous that ending is. I think that this one is too, and maybe more so because this is more of those kind of in between films, typical, you know, Fincher, where he's, you know, towing that line, even though it's very horrific. I feel like a lot more people who might not necessarily be into the horror genre would have seen this film. And so I think that this ending is infamous. I mean, I feel like anytime you bring up this movie, somebody is going to say or reference what's in the box. I mean, I feel like that's just kind of a given. Yeah. And it's, you know, it's interesting that just, you know, a couple weeks apart, we've covered these two films whose endings are just so bleak and also just kind of so famous within the realms of horror and like cinema and stuff. And I really like this ending. I think it's very impactful. I remember the first time I saw it, not necessarily like where I was or how old I was, but just the impact of the ending and how fucked up it was, and me pondering and chewing on those ideas. Yeah, it's a good ending.
Yeah,
it is a good ending. Yeah, it's a good movie in general. Like, so you brought up The Mist, and yeah, they both similarly have like bleak as fuck endings, but that one came out much later, where that was like not as uncommon. It just felt like more trod territory for a movie like that. Even though for just an outright horror movie to like truly end on like the gruesomest outcome and also take the fucking world by storm. Although The Mist didn't quite do that. The reputation was a little bit more subdued for that one, I think, just because of where it lands in history. But this one, like, kind of, I don't know. I can't point to any examples off the top of my head of like movies that, like, I don't know. It's clear how much this, like you said, tracks with the direction that horror films and genre films in general were kind of going towards, this bleak sort of 90s feel after like the 80s, which was like very hyper fun for the most part.
Yeah, sugary pop. It
was either sugary pop or even the bleak stuff, which did exist. It wasn't like, it still had like an air of like silliness almost, or like chintziness, that this is just absolutely refusing to give you anything resembling levity in this, outside of a handful of like lines that are chuckle worthy in any other context, maybe, but because it's in this, it's like, oh, thank God we're laughing. We're laughing.
Everything's fine right now.
The bleakness of this movie and like the tonality of it and the brutality of it definitely does sort of lend itself towards the direction of what eventually becomes torture porn, but also like just the sort of general obsession that we seem to have as a culture about like the inner workings of a serial killer's mind and like what motivates them, what drives them, and like that pervades, you know, fictional works, but obviously like true crime has exploded since this movie came out as well. So it's like in multiple facets, and then you also have all these TV shows. All your CISs, NCISs, CSIs, all the letter shows, the FBIs, all these fucking police.
The FBIs.
That is a show now. The FBIs is a show.
Is it really?
Yeah, not making it up.
Well,
yeah.
shut my mouth.
It really is. But yeah, it's just fucking everywhere. We got to figure out the mind of the killer, and sometimes it's really interesting and sometimes it's not. But
it's interesting because like that's always been around to some smaller degree. It's just like it's a wave of popularity that this movie seems to be kicking off. Because like it does sort of seem like we're now in the true crime wave. Even that is maybe crested at this point, maybe. But like for a while there, we were seeing like we saw torture porn stuff after this, and then it all kind of like sort of went down as like sort of like cerebral stuff, like stuff that was not necessarily didn't lean on gore or any of that stuff. It's like we took all the gory lessons from this movie for a while, and the bleakness is kind of there. And then that sort of winds its way into being sort of like bubblegummy again to some extent with like 80s throwback movies and shit like that. And then now we've got like true crime on the rise. I don't know. I don't think it's ever like not there, like the interest and fascination with death and like serial killers in particular, like or even just people with psychological issues. Like the 70s were a glut with that sort of thing. Like we saw like The Baby and shit like that. Like all these movies that like provide a pathos for a character to become a serial killer or whatever else. That stuff was all out there. It's just this one like feels hyper gritty, and it like I think it's the cinema feeling of it that feels so unique about it. Mm-hmm. The story's good and it's like doesn't pull punches, but it also like it just looks so modern compared to all of those other examples that you can think of from before this time.
Yeah.
Well, there's something I wrote on my phone, and then your conversation just then, it kind of melded this weird, interesting aspect in my mind. So the first note I said, when John Doe starts talking, I wrote on this note, you can't just tap them on the shoulder. You have to hit them with a sledgehammer. And of course, that made me think of things like even like TikTok trends these days where people are doing outrageous things just to get a spot of attention. It's not necessarily bringing them any money. It's not necessarily, it's literally just to have some small form of notoriety or some glimpse
social collateral
of fame, social collateral. And so, I mean, I think that idea and those our themes are even more prevalent today in some way, but also in the same way, the explosion of social media, I was wondering if that has been affecting things, because at this point, and I'm wondering if we're starting to circle around a little bit talking about the 80s, because the 80s was also very like glitz and glam. People had the big hair, bright colors, things that brought attention to themselves in that kind of way. And with the boom of social media, we talk about people curating their lives, what they show people, even like glitz and glam, like the big cars, like showing off these places, showing off these aspects of yourself that you yourself pick and choose. And, and like we have this big obsession with celebrity and like, I don't know, the kind of glitz of it all and trying to capture that through social media. I can be like that too, or I can show you these things too. And I'm wondering now, we've been talking about this kind of trend of like 90s stuff kind of like catching back on. I'm wondering if that's kind of like circling back around yet again, where people like, I'm tired of this fake ass shit. I know you don't really have those chains. I know you don't really have that car. You rented that shit, whatever.
Fake ass chain.
And now we're getting bleak again. Maybe. I don't know. It's just, I'm pondering here.
Yeah.
It's never just the one thing, but I think that like it's a reflection of where like, especially because these are mostly American films we're talking about. It's a reflection of the world that we lived in America, in each segment of American history across that time. So like in the 80s, we were like, economy's booming, all that shit. Like people are all about glitz and glamour. They're, like you said, they're all about like, they're American Psychos. That's what that was parodying. It parodies that, but also at the same time, like Scream came out a year after this, and it pokes fun at it. Became sort of like a meta thing where it's like, yeah, we know the world sucks and this stuff's stupid, but it's also stupid in a fun way. And here's how we'd make it fun again. Like, I don't know, like it's never just one wave cresting at a time, but there are definite feelings of like there are heights in the 80s, there were depths in the 90s, and since the 2000s, since like I think we got our I don't know, like the bubblegum pop craze or whatever in the late 90s got just like kind of like cut off at the hilt when like 9/11 and shit started happening and the world started collapsing for us again. And like, we started getting more cynical all over again. I don't know. It's just, it just keeps pendulum swinging back and forth. And I don't think there's any one point that is lacking in both things. But I do think that like right now, like you see like Bo Burnham's thing that took off because it was pointing at exactly the sort of like influencer culture shit and other things that you're talking about, felt bleak as shit, bleaker than any comedy special I've ever seen in my life. And people loved it. I loved it. And now, I don't know. I just feel like this fits nicely into that push and pull between like just being, you know, people making films that are meant to entertain and like make you happy with what you got or where you are or whatever. And then movies that are like, no, here's the cynical truth. I feel like there's always a tug and like they're always dancing together and one is always on top and always on the bottom. And I think it really depends on what's happening in the world and in the country. Because if you're filled with anxiety, you might want to hear somebody talk about that anxiety. But you might also, on the same breath, want to go get some bubblegum pop in your ears, you know? So I don't know. I'm kind of rambling here, but it just feels like tracking this is a fucking academic pursuit that I don't think we're ready for, honestly.
I'm ready. I don't know.
Oh, for sure. Very ready. I think just like the conceit of this movie, it being based on like a serial killer, like taking inspiration from the 7 Deadly Sins, is just sort of a brilliant way to go about making a horror movie, because it's something that like Americans are just sort of always inundated with these ideas, these Christian ideals, and like to sort of turn it on their head and like have this guy be like so inspired by the story to a very unhealthy degree is just like brilliant. I think like when they break into his apartment, you see that big neon cross and like they start reading his journals and stuff, like you get kind of a peek inside of his head. And it's just really interesting. And like, that's obviously like why people become obsessed with like the mind of a killer, is like, you want more, you just desperately want to like understand why he does what he does, as dark as it is. You still just like want to turn the next page and keep reading and like find out more.
It's true. And
yeah,
there's that's very true. It feels like the true crime is like you said, an outcropping of that, like the resurgence of that sort of thing. And like, there's also a backlash to the idea of like this movie is looked at by some folks critically as being, you know, a point at which an argument is made that it is glorifying of the brilliance of this character that's evil. And like, we've had this discussion about like the Saw movies, where like that doesn't cut the mustard for us. We've been critical of that movie for that very reason. I don't know that this movie really rises to that. I don't think so, but I can see that argument sort of like, again, it's just like there are things that dance together across culture. And I think that's one of them, is like our fascination with the macabre things that make people think that these horrible things are okay, and then the need to escape that also and be safe from that, like, and not give it a platform that's going to make it insert it into your mind or anybody else's mind in a way that's going to recreate anything like that. The thing is, like, people have been crazy and batshit and like murderous for as long as humans have been human and beyond.
Forever.
So
yeah,
I don't know that you can really extricate any of that.
So also to talk, because we've brought up Saw a couple of times now. We just covered Saw a couple months ago, and man, I hadn't seen this movie in a little bit, maybe a couple years since, you know, when we covered Saw. But I mean, damn, this is just so much better. I mean, this is just so much better than any entry that has come out in the Saw series. But also, interestingly enough, one thing that I never noticed before until this watch, at the very beginning, the way that the intro credits were structured and the sound was really making me think of American Horror Story. Did anybody else get that? Yeah.
It just made me think of a Nine Inch Nails music video, because that's basically what it was.
Yeah, but do you see kind of like where I'm coming from now? Okay.
Yeah. Yes, I am correct. I saw a talk from Kyle Cooper, who is the designer of these opening credits and a whole fucking ton of iconic credit opening sequences, he also did American Horror Story.
Okay, so same. Okay,
same guy.
Okay, that makes sense.
And he does his fucking repertoire is insane. I'll have to look it up here if I can find it. But I guess he did Godzilla 2014. I didn't know that. Mother. Oh man,
wait, which Mother? The Aronofsky one?
Mother. Yes.
Oh, the Danzig Mother. He did that.
Danzig Mother. Yes.
To like continue on that Saw train of thought, there's one kill in this that is like just recreated in one of the Saw movies. I forget which one, to be honest, but the guy who has to cut like a pound of flesh off of his body and put it on like the scale. Like one of the Saw movies,
Saw 6.
Yeah, it like opens with two people and they have to cut. Whoever cuts the most flesh off their body is like the one that survives or whatever. It's like
well, that is also like a turn of phrase.
Sure,
it is, but I mean the actual kill, like the guy, and even the way this guy dies in this, he starts to cut like at his love handle because he's a bigger guy or whatever.
Exactly.
It's really.
No, it is, and like it is. It's one of those things where I'm like, I'm not 100% sure I want to attribute it as like lifted material or anything like that, because that is something that you could conceive of outside of seeing this movie. But that said, they are definitely the same thing, basically. In the end of the day. More or less the same thing. So yeah, I mean, we talked about this while we reviewed Saw. Is like this movie clearly was a huge influence on that. So it's not unfair, I guess, to say that they might have lifted it.
Yeah, even the way they handled Jigsaw, like, you know, lurking around the corners, you don't really get a good look at him for a while. I mean, you do eventually, and then you get way too much of him. But like similar to John Doe, he's like wearing the hat and like creeping around the corner with a trench coat on. You can't really see who he is. Kind of in the same vein. I do think it's a great idea that they just really didn't bill Kevin Spacey in this. You had no idea who the killer was going to be. I guess it, like when he first calls and you hear his voice, if you're familiar with his voice, you'd figure it out at that point. But like he's such a creepy dude, and he embodies this character in such a great way. And I imagine that was a wonderful surprise back in like 95 when people are in the theaters like, oh my God, it's him. You know, I think it was a really smart idea to not bill him.
Yeah, I also don't know that he had quite the level of fame then. I know he was famous because he was in Glenn Ross and shit like that. Like he was a known actor, I think, but I don't think he was like quite A-list. I think this maybe like solidified him as A-list, this movie. Well, also that's speculative on my part. Go ahead, Juice.
Also, too, on the other aspect of just like what Saw is, because Saw is obviously like this kind of imitation of what this is. It came out almost 10 years later than what this did. But also, too, it's an interesting aspect of this film, this noir aspect of it, too. You know, when Kevin Spacey first comes up, John Doe, and he's got the trench coat and the hat or whatever, he's just the silhouette. It's fucking raining all the time. This just kind of derelict city where they live in an apartment and the subway shakes it around and stuff. It's a cool modern noir vibe that makes this film very special, that separates it from other things that try to imitate it.
And the color palette, man, it really helps with that, because it is a very desaturated movie in a lot of in its color palette in a lot of ways. I'm just looking through this dude's Sam Raimi Spider-Man, fucking goddamn. What is this?
A bit of trivia on like just the look of this movie. I guess they achieved it through a chemical process called bleach bypass, where the silver in the film stock just was not removed. It was kept in there, and it helped deepen the shadows in the movie.
Weird.
So it's kind of how they had got that look. That's interesting.
That makes sense. That is interesting.
So also to the kill. Well, okay. I would say most of the kills in here are iconic and have stuck with me essentially forever. Ever since I saw this movie for the first time, there are always things that live in my mind. Specifically, the first one, the opening one, the sloth one. Jesus Christ,
brutal, man.
Brutal. The lust one, of course, and then of course the ending. But just this movie, it's just this stew of things that it hits right on each kind of aspect. Honestly, like I was talking about the noir vibe, I think it's got a cool vibe in that. But the brutality in this, it's not just the ending and like, oh my God, we're going to kill a pregnant woman. I mean, I remember the idea of this man just being strapped to this bed for 1 year, and the way they describe him of his brain is mush and he fucking went insane and chewed his own tongue off. And that shit looks gnarly.
And he's still alive when they find him. It makes it even
They have
worse.
the record of his. Oh man.
Yeah, his freak out scene. Yeah, and the pictures showing him just as a normal person at the beginning. Holy fuck. This shit's so effective. That shit's so effective.
The dedication.
It is. And like you're
like to that the dedication to that kill, to like plan everything for over a year in advance just for this like one sort of grand week where you unveil everything it's insane. It's fucking crazy.
I don't want this to turn into another Saw review, but man, does that movie want to be this movie? Really, really bad.
Yeah.
But it's it does all the it's like Jigsaw gets all the glory, but like you never actually get a sense that he's doing any work to make it happen. It's just sort of like he's just godlike in that way. And that kind of works in this one because thematically it makes sense that this guy's just one step ahead. And logistically, it's not impossible. Any of the stuff is not impossible as far as I've been able to tell. I haven't noticed any glaring plot holes that make it seem like he couldn't have accomplished any of this.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like it clearly had an impact on the direction of horror and probably police procedurals and true crime, all that shit. But outside of its legacy, just like within the confines of the movie itself, like you're saying, like these kills, they're incredible. This writing is incredible. It's like a philosophical movie. Like it's Morgan Freeman's like cynical, jaded, you know, I've worked for X number of years and nothing's changed except me. And now I'm hardened, but also I can't help but follow and fight the good fight. You've got that versus just the like fucking Brad Pitt's complete like id, like it's just like ego driven, you know, but also driven by his faith that he can improve things in the world by just like not letting red tape and other shit inhibit him. Like, that's a fucking interesting push and pull between these characters. I don't know. Like I like the way that they write these characters. It's kind of almost like a classic film noir, like you said. Like except it's like explicitly referencing philosophical concepts directly, while also digging into the psyche of a murderer. It just kind of like combines so many interesting things that you could build an entire movie around entirely on their own, and people have. But it does so in a way that's like so fucking perfectly orchestrated. And that's the Fincher touch, man. Like there's nothing this man is known for more than being like an insane stickler about every frame of his films. Like he knows everything that you get on screen is exactly what he wanted, unless there's like a big story behind it, like a studio intervention or some shit.
Alien 3.
Yep.
Poor guy.
Poor little
He
guy.
learned his lessons. Like he learned
because I was because I think I was looking at his filmography before, because I was like, which Fincher films have I not seen? Like I haven't seen that new one that came out yet. I want to check it out. But in that, I'm pretty sure this was his next film that came after Alien.
It is.
So good on him for kind of rolling with the punches and the bad kind of, deal that he got and coming out with this film, because holy shit, this like blew people's nuts away when it came out, and it's really, I don't know, a testament to how good he is as a filmmaker. But yeah, I just there's so many aspects in this. There was another aspect that kind of piqued my interest this time around when I was like hyper focusing on some things, but even just describing when John Doe's finally caught, and they just do this quick description of he's independently wealthy, well educated, and I was just thinking, like, what is it about serial killers that they're just these oftentimes white, middle class, well educated people who go insane? And in some ways I was thinking, like, I don't even think it was necessarily a commentary in that it's like representing what is reality, but on the same way, there is this kind of like aspect of it of even Brad Pitt being this kind of like younger white guy and him having those values that seem kind of virtuous of like, I'm not going to give up on the world. And it's terrible to think that way. And yet he just treats everyone around him like complete and utter shit. You know, he talks down to everyone. His anger fuels everything. And he's very kind of arrogant in that way. Where like Morgan Freeman's the only one who's like thinking clearly. And there's like an age, gap there, like an older, wiser man. But I don't know. It's just interesting to have these kind of like three main characters that it rotates around. Mm-hmm. And Morgan Freeman is bleak and has this terrible outlook on life. I say terrible. I don't think it's so terrible. I think it's just kind of realist. But
it's sad, and it's a
sad, sure, you could say sad outlook on life. But then the others around him are this guy who should be well off in life. He's got the money, he's well educated, but he fucking is slaughtering people. And then this other guy who should have everything, but essentially throws his life away for his ideals, even though his like actions don't really reflect his ideals. I don't know. It's interesting character building going on here.
One of the very first things Brad Pitt says when he meets Somerset is like, "Hey man, just don't jerk me off, all right? That's all I want. I just don't want to be jerked off, okay?" It's like, damn, you just met your partner and like you're coming in hot, dude. Like,
69 dudes.
He's
That
very
bump is really loud.
Sorry about that.
He's like very arrogant and like wants to be taken so seriously, and he's like, "Hey man, I've been on the force for like 6 years, okay?" Meanwhile, Freeman's been working this city for like 30 plus, I'm sure. And I don't know, like, he wants to come in and do a good job and make a difference, but he's very cocksure in a way that doesn't seem earned.
Yeah. It's that's his character is like, he's overly prideful. He's overly like concerned with appearing like the smart guy in the room or not feeling like a joke and all those sort of things. He's very easily manipulated in that way, and that's how John Doe eventually gets him. Yeah. But his heart is ultimately in the right place. He wants to do good by the city, but he does so by being a piece of shit to people, by neglecting his wife and doing all these things. And John Doe sees that as an abdication of the same duty that he's supposed to be pursuing. So he exacts his own level of justice on him, and it's twisted and it's fucked up and it's not congruous with the ideals of being a good person. But like, nobody said that you have to be, sane in order to make your point. So like, ultimately they kind of end up agreeing partially on things. Like they just want to improve things in different ways. Somerset actually manages to be more capable in this film, not just because he doesn't have the anger issues, but because he's able to let those things slide. He's not so concerned with doing the best good in the world. He's concerned with being pragmatic because that's what the job has done to him. Mm-hmm. So like, they're actually kind of a perfect team in that way. It's just, John Doe sees what's exploitable and exploits it. He's a step ahead. Yeah. And I don't know, like the whole thing about like the vast majority of known serial killers are white people, like white dudes from like poor to half decent backgrounds, occasionally even affluent backgrounds. And it's like, I don't really know the psychology that could cause that. And I don't really want to speculate. It's too deep of a well, but
that's a
ton
whole
of
other show.
Wildly.
Yeah.
Right. It's like how they were oppressed as a kid, or like a million things factor into that. So.
Mostly religion. Mostly, I think it's
repressed as a kid.
Well, it's about your beliefs that cannot be checked by anybody but yourself. Yes. So that sounds like faith to me.
And sexual,
and justifying impulse control or lack thereof, or overly controlled.
I do want to ask y'all, if you were Mills at the end of this movie and your wife's head was in a box, would you shoot John Doe or would you let him live?
I'd let him live. I would let him live, knowing that he like that. It's like I can't. Every time I watch this, Morgan Freeman says the thing I'm thinking is like, if you shoot him, he wins.
Yeah,
like he wins the whole game.
That's what he wants.
He gets out scot-free. Like if you believe in an afterlife, he's going to hell, sure, but he's going to hell regardless. At that point, if you don't believe in an afterlife, then you're just giving him a ticket out of town. Not have to face up to his crimes. You can punch the living shit out of him if you want. I think that's easily justifiable.
I would hurt him a lot.
Well,
I don't.
That's
Go
the
ahead.
thing about it is I think it's very interesting because again, it plays off kind of the opposites of what each one of them practices and preaches kind of in the same way, because Morgan Freeman's whole philosophy is you're not going to do any good in the world. And he kind of like doesn't even that he follows the book for himself, for his personal rules. But at the end of the day, he's like, what I do is not going to change anything. I'm a glorified like organizer. I just make the times. I put this shit in a file that's never going to be looked at, and criminals just keep on keeping on. So if you actually lived by that philosophy, like if you truly believed him, then the whole thing of like John Doe if I didn't kill him, is he gonna plead insanity? Is he gonna manipulate the system and be, you know, and just like spread his word even further and like kind of push these things or what? Maybe, probably, you know, like, so that's the thing is like, does it really matter whether you kill him or not?
I don't
Probably
think so. I mean, we've seen a fuck ton of serial killers get locked up, even the ones that were considered smarter. And to the extent they have fan clubs, they do, but they are fucking weirdos in their own right. They're not like this.
Wow.
It's not like that's a whole different thing. And I like the consequences of what comes next is notwithstanding. I do think it's interesting though, what you're saying about like if you look at Mills, he's got two things tugging at his heart in that moment. He's got his unfettered rage, deservedly so in that moment. And then he's got his drive to make the world better and to use that rage for the greater or whatever. Like that's kind of been his whole thing. Somerset, on the other hand, he shares that, like, he doesn't say so for a long time. He's very like belittling himself, but it's like Mills says earlier, it's like, I don't think you actually believe that there's no way you're going to help the world. I think that you just say that because you don't see you're quitting and you need to justify that move for yourself because you've been a bloodhound for so many years and it's only gotten you so far, but that's still what drives you. So they're both driven by that, but the rage is what's being exploited. So he's got like push and pulled on that side for Mills. And then for Somerset, it's between the feeling of doing the right thing or like making the world better. And it's pulling him out of that apathy. So they're both kind of at odds with the two key, like, what's the word? Like, discrepancies in their personalities and where they are in their lives. Yeah. And I just think that's really brilliant writing. And like, I don't know. I just wanted to call that out, I guess, because it's really fucking interesting to think about, because that is the push and pull. That's the whole movie. That's the whole ethos of this movie, is the end line of Somerset believes that it's worth fighting for. The world's maybe not a wonderful place, but it's worth fighting for, is ultimately his thesis statement. And the last line of this movie, I think you see that in every character in this movie, every major character in this movie, at least in the two detectives. I don't know. It's just rock solid.
Yeah.
I don't think I could blame anybody for killing him.
No, it's very understandable.
I think
that's
also the thing too. It's just like, I'll kill him because why not?
I think
it's kind of my point. Like I would just,
I think because it's an abdication of everything that he supposedly drives him.
He
completes
his
it's his rage pulling him instead of his.
But what do you gain if you don't kill him? Then it's just kind of like the pride of like, I didn't give in to your plan. So
yeah. So
yeah, I mean, it doesn't do anything.
I mean, I guess
like it does mean something because it means something to him. The law and like not necessarily like to the letter of the law, but like justice means something to him.
If I can think of like, oh, go ahead, Bob.
You would like force him to live the rest of his life knowing that his greatest work it was not ever completed and he was a failure. So I guess that would be some form of torture with him. But if you kill him, he'll just be dead, and that's
the thing. Is like. The thing, I guess I would weigh it in this way. If I don't kill him, there's potential for him, whether he's tortured or not. I think he's so insane and blinded by his own grandiose that that wouldn't necessarily be the case, that he could do more harm, that he would be more harmful existing in the world versus my own pride of being like, I didn't give in to his wishes.
Well, you also don't get to go to jail.
Nobody's going to convict that man. Nobody's going to convict Brad Pitt for shooting John Doe in the head.
Yeah, of course they will. It's to the letter of the law. That's the thing, is like, he's a big believer in like justice and exaction, and he crosses that line in order to exact his own brand of justice, knowing that it's going to be put in the back of a cop car and taken away. And I don't think that's. I think that if people are following like the rule of law, then he would go to jail. Like, the thing is, personally, I don't blame him. Like, it's hard to blame him, but I think that it shows him giving into a weakness. His weakness is rage. His power comes from the pursuit of justice and the dogged pursuit of justice, and that's what his true value is to the world. So it's an abdication of that to me, and it puts him in jail for at least a couple of years while you get the fucking thing sorted out, at least. And it doesn't really like exact a true justice. It just gives him a plane ticket out of town. It gives, to me, it's death by cop or whatever. Like it's a suicide run. And I don't think that like anything you can do to subvert this piece of shit's plan to make you cross a line that is sacred to you is not. I'm just going to fuck with that plan. I'm not going to do that plan if I can help it.
Yeah. There's not a good option, really. I mean,
no, there really isn't.
Not a good one.
And the thing is, I don't know. Do we know what city they're in? I always think that it's Seattle until they're in the fucking desert.
It's specifically ambiguous.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was gonna like wonder about, like, depending on where he is, he might get the death penalty. John Doe might get the death penalty for
Gotham.
that shit.
It's Gotham.
And ultimately, like, nobody's gonna look at this man if he doesn't kill. Like, if he kills John Doe, and he does, if he once he does that, he's somewhat tainted. His future is locked around prison and like getting out of that and like finding a new way of life or whatever. He's still going to have to pick up the shambles of his life if he doesn't, but he's automatically a fucking saint in so many people's eyes. He's going to have a much simpler time dealing with that shit, at least comparatively.
I could see like some sort of a group of like really radicalized like Christians, evangelicals, like finding out about this and being like supercharged to go do some crazy dumb shit. But the message is going to be out whether he's alive or not. So I guess to Juice's point, like, why not? Just why not pull the trigger? Whatever.
Now, that's an interesting point, Bob. And I wanted to ask this before we land the plane, because I think
martyrs him though, doesn't it?
Well, hang on. So I wanted to ask, would you then now consider this a religious horror film?
Yeah, I think this.
Yeah.
Well, it centers around. It centers entirely around the value of like. Not values. Let's take a step back from that. It centers entirely around morality and justice and what those things mean and what it means to be a good person in a world that clearly does not reward that, at least not in most cases. I don't know. I don't think that you can, again, like that. The religious aspect is definitely in the center nebula, the nucleus of this thing.
Yeah,
it's not alone in that nucleus, but it is heavily in the rotation.
There's a neon cross in his apartment. Religious horror.
The 7 deadly sins. They talk about Dante and Alighieri. The whole fucking like the whole movie is that. So and that tracks with what we know about so many American serial killers too. So I love watching this and having now seen Manhunter, that show Manhunter, which is also Fincher's work. I'm sorry. What did I say?
Manhunter.
Nope. Mindhunter. Yes. Different thing. And like, it's so crazy, like how much I can feel the sort of the ghost of this ethos in that, but it's so they go into it. They have so much more time to sort of like really dig into some of those questions. And, at the same time, they're telling us a story that in some respects happened. I don't know. I really like that show. So I just kind of wanted to bring it up. It feels like this show. It feels like this movie to me, except maybe a little less gritty, a little more modern in its portrayal, but absolutely as cleverly executed and as deep and in its pursuits.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, any other major points before we go ahead and rate 7?
Well, we didn't give any kind of critiques. We did a lot of praising and analyzing.
Yeah.
I had some.
Do you have some
potential? Maybe. I could throw it out there.
Hit me with those sick burns, bro.
Well, so they're kind of tied together and they're kind of separate, but so I was mentioning earlier that sloth and lust were so impactful. I always forget about greed and even pride. I was like thinking like, I can't remember what pride. Now
Pride
after it
is so
happened, I was like,
fast.
oh shit. Yeah. Well, that's the thing is like, sometimes I feel like, and even the actually kind of the reason I asked about the religious aspect is sometimes those aspects feel a little glossed over or rushed for the sake of, I'm not necessarily like for the sake of more character development between, Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt, which is better. But at the same time, like even when John Doe's giving his spiel, I felt a little bit like, and I'm kind of conflicted based on what Randy said earlier about people praising this person or whatever, where, some of them make a lot of like almost too much sense of, the lawyer and like what he gets criminals off. And then also too, the sloth guy, what he's a fucking pedophile. And you're like, okay, well, yeah, damn. But then at the same time, it's like, this dude, he's just really fat. And I know this is the 90s and we've come a long way and a lot of that kind of stuff. But even just like, and this model, I'm going to cut her face up. It's just some of them have more impact in the realm of religious ideals, you know what I'm saying? And like where somebody could be like, yeah, kill that pedophile or, fuck this lawyer. But somebody's pretty.
He is crazy.
I know.
Well,
that's the kind of line I'm on. I'm like, well, do I want it to make a little more sense or do I want this guy to not be perfect?
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, like, he's following the fucking 7 deadly sins.
Yeah.
He's going to have to attack a fat guy for being fat. He's going to have to attack a prideful person for being prideful. So, like, they make as much sense as they need to for those things. And he clearly is repulsed by that man and that woman, and he's repulsed by the woman who like the sex worker and like all these these are like with most serial killers and like with so many fucking regular people who subscribe to some faith or another, it is a means to justify pedantry and bigotry that is already in him. It's a means to justify these things. He already is disgusted by the people, and he's like, yeah, I could target a fat guy. Who's next? Oh, yeah. And then it's like, oh, yeah, a slut. I could totally kill a slut.
Well,
like,
with the fat guy, like, so in those two instances, even though lust is very memorable, so one thing that I don't know randomly popped in my mind with the fat guy, for instance, I was like, if he attacked somebody like a Tony Soprano, which I know you haven't seen The Sopranos, but somebody who is like gorging themselves on the kind of like pain and suffering of others, then that could make more sense. And also too, with the lust, if it was somebody who is like making a huge profit off of sex trafficking or something like that, then you're like, oh, okay, sure. So in that way of just like this just big old fat guy, I'm like, I mean, I know you got it.
You're expecting too much of him.
Okay. And that could be and maybe it's honestly like a little bit of the writing. Cause sometimes I'm like, I don't know. I kind of want a little more conflict of like, is this guy right? No, is a Thanos, like a Thanos is right type of thing I don't know.
I'm happy without that, honestly. Because
are you?
No,
okay.
I think it shows the flaws in his.
He's insane.
And his, and like even if he had done all that shit, I mean, it would not really ultimately change a whole lot for me. It would just be that he had like gone an even further mile. The thing is, he's already gone so far, but it's all in service to sending this message. And like, I don't know, if you want to get into the head of this guy for a second, maybe his thinking is, gluttony. I got to get a big fat guy because otherwise people aren't going to get it. Like, I got to get somebody who has sex a lot. Otherwise people aren't going to get, like, I have to get a lawyer. Everybody knows a lawyer's greedy. Like, I don't know.
Well, and it's a strength in a way too, because I do like how Morgan Freeman actually, if it weren't for Brad Pitt, kind of starts to pick at that. He's so smart and insightful. He actually starts to get under John Doe's skin, but then it's just interrupted and justified by Brad Pitt shooting off at the mouth and letting the rat take over, and then John Doe's justified. Like, even in the car.
That was a fascinating that conversation is so great, knowing what's happening next, knowing what's coming. Oh man, it just because it's exactly what you said. Like, you see John Doe be like, it's like, he could say more, he could argue further, and it seems like he should, but he doesn't, because he knows he's already won. Basically, he's like one step to victory, and every time this guy mouths off, he's one step closer. Like, I don't know. I don't have a lot of critiques of this movie, so I'm down to move on to the final phase here.
I have some more, but I'll just mention them as we wrap up. Let's go and rate this. Let's rate 7 out of 5. Juice, why don't you kick us off? How do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have a whole lot of critiques either. I was just trying to come up with some things that maybe, I do think in some ways that some of them are a little rushed and maybe not as thought out. Like, for instance, like Greed, it feels like we kind of brushed through that, but the justification seems to make more sense, I guess. But really, like I said, the character development and the push and pull between Somerset and Mills, and then introducing John Doe at the end, and he's kind of always there pulling at those strings anyways, because we see how Brad Pitt's coming apart throughout the whole thing and his reactions, and Somerset like staying chill and stuff. So I don't, it's not necessarily a critique, it was just something that kind of came to mind. The only other thing I kind of wish for, like if I was going to edit this movie now, which, fucking 30 years removed, but I kind of wish too that Brad Pitt's busting into the apartment had more led into their need to do the plea deal. Like his brash, because Somerset's like, do not break down this fucking door. And then Brad Pitt does break down the door. And it's like, we can't use this evidence against this guy. If that had somehow come into their need to do the plea deal, where then Brad Pitt then does go and like collect his wife's head, maybe. Other than that, though, I mean, I think this, I mean, especially like in comparison to a lot of films we've covered, mainly stuff like Saw, but just a ton of stuff that clearly was influenced by this. High Tension, I feel like a lot of the New French Extremity and stuff just from the early 2000s, late 90s and stuff like this. This is a hugely influential movie. The character development is great. The ending is so mind-blowing and impactful. And even, as much as Brad Pitt is like brash and stuff like that, I love their dialogue in the bar towards the very end, where Brad Pitt actually comes back with some like good lines or whatever. I was like, that's probably his best performance in the movie. But I think all the performances are great here. They do kind of a good job of setting up Gwyneth Paltrow. It's just like maybe they're from this small town and she's just kind of lonely and stuff. We do have a little bit of a kind of woman in the fridge situation, which is a bummer and unfortunate, but yeah, I don't know. It's a pretty good movie, very influential. And I don't have a lot to critique it on, honestly. I think I might give it a 5 because I just don't know what it's. Well, it's just like an amazing director. It looks great. The script is like pretty, like almost foolproof in most ways, and just like a lot of good character development, impactful ending, very influential. I mean, what are you gonna do? I think 5.
What are you gonna do?
What are you going to do?
I'm going to give it a 5. Bob, over to you. Give me those critiques that maybe I'll reflect on my score now and regret.
And change. I don't think there was hardly any character development in this movie. I think these people stay exactly the same throughout the entire film. They don't really change or learn much of anything. I think you get to know them a little better throughout their conversations and dialogue, but I don't know that there's much of an arc happening for anybody. I mean, Somerset quits, and Brad Pitt's just like, he's the cocksure detective that makes mistakes throughout the whole movie, and then he ultimately pays dearly. So I don't know. I don't know there's much development there. The dialogue's interesting, though, for sure. I also thought it was kind of strange that, like, Mills's wife, after one meeting with Somerset, calls him and, like, divulges all this extremely personal information to him over breakfast. Like, it just felt strange that she would go to him and not, like, I don't know, literally anybody else that she would have known longer than him after meeting him once. That was kind of strange to me. I know we just need to get that information that she's pregnant, but, like, she could have a sister, or, like, call her mom on the phone, or I don't know, something. I also think that this movie feels a bit like, kind of like it's just moving from, like, set piece to set piece, because, I mean, it definitely is, and the set pieces are, like, interesting for the most part. Some of them are a little bit rushed, but I think on, like, repeat viewings, it sort of loses some of its luster because of that. And also the ending, obviously. Once you know the ending, it sort of loses a bit of its luster on repeat viewings as well. But the first time you watch it, it's fucking great. So those are, like, just a few negatives that I had. Everything else, positive. I mean, we've sort of gushed about this for the vast majority of the show so far. It's extremely influential, and it's very effective, with great performances, and the script is solid. It's solid as hell. I don't know that it's a perfect Fincher movie, but it's a damn good one, and I think we're still seeing, like, the ripple effects from this movie today in many ways. So I'm going to come in with a 4 out of 5 on this one. Randeezy, how do you feel?
Yeah, I love this movie. I think the only negative that I naturally came up on is entirely self-inflicted, which is that I've seen this movie so many times that, like, and so frequently that there's a little bit of diminishing returns. This time around, it actually felt like it's 2-hour runtime, which has never happened before. And it's primarily because I knew every beat of this movie pretty well. To talk to some of the negatives you brought up, Bob, like, I don't think there's no character development in this at all. I think that our cocksure detective starts to develop and then fails. He is ultimately put to the ultimate test and fails, and that creates an ending arc for Somerset, who goes from being completely, like, he takes on some of that duty, takes back some of that duty that was being professed to him by Mills earlier in the movie. That those conversations they had, that was deepening where they were, so that when this seismic shift in their lives happen, it makes it ends up with different characters for them. Like, this guy crossed a line that he never wanted to cross. He killed a guy. Like, the purveyor of justice, the guy whose ego is all about being the good guy who's going to, like, take down the bad guys or whatever. He crosses a line and, like, arguably is now a bad guy. He's a murderer. And then on the other hand, you've got this guy who had resigned himself to resign, and because he didn't feel like he was effective enough and all this stuff. And he in the end isn't effective, but he takes on, he feels that sense of duty and ends the movie with the line of, "I think it's worth fighting for," which to me implies that he's not quitting. He changes his mind on that. So I don't know. I just wanted to put that out there. I can understand the argument, but I think it's like a subtle shift, but I think that that's appropriate considering, like, the extreme amount of set dressing we are given for each character. Like, that's the depth of character that I'm after. That's the development that makes those turns make sense to me and makes them work. Anyway, all that aside, I really love this movie. I think it looks great. I think if there is a perfect Fincher movie, I think this is it. I'm looking through his stuff, and there's a lot of good shit on here, a lot of great shit on here, but I don't see one that I think nails it as hard as this one does, at least not for me. So I'm going to also give it a 5. Yeah, it's a 5 for me. I don't know. I think that this movie is simultaneously a feast for the gore hounds and a seismic shift in filmmaking at the time, like a big influence. It's got all of these, like, things. It's got great performances, great writing. It's got great look, like, very unique stuff that was then emulated, sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. Like, this is a flagship film. Like, this is a movie that really was a sea change for things. And even setting aside its legacy, just as an experience, it is rock solid. It's tightly controlled in all of the best ways, and it feels natural even within that. So 5 stars from me.
Right on. That's going to put our aggregate at a 4.7. And as is per usual, whenever you guys pick a flick for us to review, we ask you to send in an email or a voicemail with your own rating and review. And Alex shot us over an email. You got that pulled up, Juice?
I do. Here we go. Hey, what up, boys? This is Alex giving my thoughts on Seven. I'm going to make it quick, though, because I want to talk about your guys' prompt from last week's show. Anyways, I absolutely love a bleak movie. One that keeps you up indulging in a pint of Ben & Jerry's and binge watching Bob's Burgers just to maybe get 3 to 4 hours of sleep. Especially when the bad guy wins. I mean, chef's kiss. Kevin Spacey steals the show when John Doe is finally fleshed out into the light. No emotions, no remorse. Love it. On the other hand, I don't know what it is, but I feel like the narrative is missing something. Like I said, I can't really put my finger on it, but I feel like Fincher forgot to put the frosting on top of what would be this beautiful 3-layered cake. The themes are there, and granted, this is one of his first films, but he really nails the same themes and tones later down the road with Zodiac and then Mindhunter. So with that, I'll say this is a 4 out of 5 stars for me. Okay, now with the prompt. Which one of the 7 deadly sins are each of you? I'll start with Randy. Randy, you would be wrath. These are all for
Shut the fuck up, man. Who do you think you are?
I thought Randy was going to be pride for all the pride he has in this podcast. No,
Totally.
but your wrath only
praises.
Your wrath only because you drink Monster energy drinks.
Son of a bitch.
We all
Who
know
are you calling a cootie queen, you lint liquor?
We all know you're punching holes in the drywall and crashing the family Subaru because you can't see past that sick vape cloud you just blew. Bob, you'd be lust. Quite obvious, and that's because of your love for physical media. Wouldn't that be greed? Rob's greed. Imagine an avalanche of Blu-rays and 4Ks tumbling down on top of you.
Yeah.
Now, Soju, whoa, you're quite difficult to come up with one. Whoa, come on, guy. In fact, I still don't have one for you. So I just say glutton, and that's only because you indulge in cookies and brownies for breakfast.
That's true. And ice cream.
That is true, yeah. And that's a good call. Yeah, pound and ice cream. That's fair. Thank you guys for reviewing this film, and keep doing what you're doing. Catch y'all later.
Hell yeah.
Awesome.
Solid. Thanks for answering the prompt.
I know.
Yeah.
And for picking a solid
Glutton. I think it's like almost redundant to call any American a glutton. Like,
it's assumed.
like we just had Thanksgiving.
It's just, yeah.
Like,
I ate a whole bird, damn it.
Yes.
Boys.
a safe bet for any of us.
Yeah. Thanks for picking this week's flick, Alex. Always good to hear from you. He's a repeat offender. This is I don't know, at least his 3rd movie, probably more than that. I'm probably way off, but
Yeah,
he's chosen
I get them
a
all
lot.
mixed up, but I do know like multiples. I know people who have the multiples.
Oh, those that give
I
us
don't know
multiples, we love them the most.
But I appreciate all of it.
Word.
Thank
Gentlemen's, let's go ahead and get into our Rotten Tomatoes segment and see what the critics and users think about Seven.
Certified. Dead.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Rotten Tomatoes segment in which I'm going to give these gentlemen a chance to guess within the best of their abilities what the aggregate positive score is on Rotten Tomatoes for both critics and users for Seven. One day I'm going to write that sentence down and make it a grammatically correct sentence, but that day has not come yet. And, a streak's a streak.
Never will.
All right. We're going to jump right into our critical review as we always do. There are 87 critic reviews on this. 87. We're going to start with
That's
Juice
so
today,
low,
I think.
it seems like.
Yeah, it's 95, so it's like pre-RottenTomatoes.com. Like, I'm assuming that's why.
Okay.
So yeah, only 87 reviews. Juice, why don't you kick us off? Where do you think those 87 reviews are going to put us?
I don't know. For some reason, that 87 just seems right. So I think I'm going to echo the number of people that reviewed it. I'm also gonna say 87%.
Project 87.
Yeah, I know,
Bob, how about you?
The boys, just something's ringing true about that.
I think
Bobby, you're going to take the over-under.
I think it's worth the over on this one. This is just a very renowned movie. I think kind of across the board. So I will go. I won't $1 you, but I'll go with an 89.
89. All right.
We could tie.
Well,
We
let's
could
see.
tie.
The correct answer is 4 percentage points away from the winner. And the winner of this particular guess is Soju. It's an 83%.
Oh, I thought I was going
83.
Bob. I thought we were going to 90.
I would have thought so too. This is much lower than I would have anticipated.
Wow.
Okay. All right. 83.
Yep. 83.
Positive, but yeah, not as
Project
high as we
83.
thought. Yeah.
Still good. Yeah.
Project.
It's a lot of projects.
83 is fine, but it just seems like, man, there are definitely movies that we've reviewed that are worse than this.
Oh, yeah.
They got better scores than that, but it's aggregate. Somebody's going to be a crybaby in there. Next, we're going to go to our audience score. There are 250,000 plus
Damn.
of these audience scores, so quite a bit, $250,000. Bob, we're going to go in reverse order, so you're going to kick us off. Where do you think those 250K fans or reviewers land on this?
I would, because the sample size is so much bigger, I would normally go lower than the critics, but I feel like I don't think it's going to be that low. So I'm just going to get crazy with it, and I'll go with an 88, please.
88. That's going crazy
I'm
with it.
crazy.
Whoa.
That's lower than your last guess, but okay.
I'm nuts.
Want to go nuts? Juice, how about you? Where are you going to land on this one?
I don't know. I feel like this one might be lower. It's pretty bleak, and sometimes people can bitch about a bleak movie. So I'll take it a little lower. I'll say 80. I don't know if we can tie on that or not. I'm not going to do the maths.
Well, let me do a little maths of my own here. I think the winner is going to be 7 percentage points off. 7. And that winner is going to be Bob. This is a 95%.
There it is.
Oh, there it was. Yeah, damn.
The people know. This one,
Skeet. Nailed it.
Whoa, I didn't get
The critics
my
consent-
hell yeet.
The critics' consensus reads as follows: a brutal, relentlessly grimy shocker with taut performances, slick gore effects, and a haunting finale.
So grimy.
Your
All that
shocker. Your
All that
shockers.
UK hip hop that's up in there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you fucking bragging.
I love these just random Home Alone bumps in this episode. Makes sense.
Yeah, well,
I think this was
the
inspired
season.
from Home Alone, though.
Oh, it's
I think
based on
that's the
Home
key
Alone.
right
It's
there,
based
yeah.
on
yeah,
it.
this is
Uh-huh.
yeah. John Doe is clearly Kevin McAllister, so like
Clearly.
30 years on.
grimy shocker Home Alone.
That's where all the money came from, you know.
That's where all the money came. Yeah, from selling that house, he's got
Yeah.
millions, and now he's just and he's well educated. He's shaved his blonde locks, and
Uh-huh.
he's still as capable at devising traps as he ever was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. This is the sequel. This is Home Alone 3.
cracked it, boys.
Anyway, we cracked the case. Let's read some rotten reviews for 7, just for the kicks and giggles of it all. Let's see. Here's one. There's none of the humor that takes the sting out of slasher movies, and certainly none of the psychology and depth that made The Silence of the Lambs such an intellectual thriller. I don't understand why that would be. Like, there's like, what?
Why we
That's not
comparing
This
funny.
should
It's
be
just wrong.
funny like a slasher.
It should be funny like a slasher, but like, what bothers me is like,
Silence of the Lambs
it
is
lacks
not
depth. Like, I don't know about that, brother. Like, this whole thing is about like morality and shit. Like, I don't know how
Should
much.
you do something or not?
Yeah, it's all like.
It doesn't matter. No.
Does anything? This is nihilism versus
Nothing
duty
matters.
versus. I don't know, man. It seems like there's a little bit of stuff to chew on here if you really wanted to.
Like spaghetti. Like all you can eat.
Yeah, tons of canned spaghetti.
Oh man, I did want to take a moment to praise the guy who plays the guy who had to wear the knife dilder when he's freaking out. That dude did a good job.
I got trivia on that, brother.
Okay.
He's an actor from like ER or something.
He's
in a
also
few things.
he plays
and The Bone Collector, maybe.
he plays the dad in The Guest.
Whoa.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Damn. All right. We'll get. Okay. Sorry.
All right. Yes, and let's read one more negative review, and then we'll kick it off and go that way. Eventually, with its irrationally downbeat ending, Se7en even drags the viewer down into the abyss. Yeah, that's a real negative review for a movie. What?
This bleak
This
movie
mo-
made
this-
me sad.
This movie about murdering people by force feeding people and using dildos to kill people. It's just real sad. They should have thrown in a musical number.
I love how the guy's like, I've made weirder shit than that.
Yeah.
It's like,
That's
you
weird.
have?
That's weird. Oh, the
Yeah.
dude. I'm pretty sure the dude's shop was like Buffalo Bill's leather goods or something.
Yeah, Wild Bill's.
Wild Bill. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of references in this. Of course, I don't remember any of them now, but like there were several things where I was like, oh, that's definitely a reference, right? Like some of the names and stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Whenever
that's
he
the end of
said,
our round.
like I thought he was just going to be some performer, some gets on stage and pees in a cup and drinks it. I
Who'd you think of?
immediately thought of Emotron.
Emotron. That's our boy.
I wonder if he's still out there troning away.
Probably.
He's, he's a true artist. I'm sure he's somewhere making.
Google the Emotron and treat yourself.
I'm scared to do that.
I'm a scared.
I'm a scared. He's probably a real sweet guy.
He probably. I hope so. Anyway,
I hope so.
There's some trivia. There's some good trivia. Let's go and get into it.
It's totally time for trivia.
All right. So, speaking of the actor who's like in the interrogation room, Juice, his name is Leland Orser. And to prepare for that scene, apparently he would breathe in and out very rapidly so that his body would be overly saturated with oxygen, giving him the ability to hyperventilate. He also chose not to sleep for several days before shooting that scene in order to achieve his character's disoriented look. So,
good for him, man.
It worked.
Dude,
What's his name?
Performance.
His name is Leland Orser, Orser.
Okay. I'm trying to look him up.
Yeah, he kills it.
He
does a
did
great
shock,
job.
like being in shock.
There he is.
Very well. Like
Yeah.
probably the best
I guess
I've ever
he's-
seen in a film.
Probably. Yeah.
I've never seen Taken, but he's in that. He is in The Bone Collector as
I've
well.
seen Taken, but it's been a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, same.
Anyway,
We
he's in a
saw
lot of stuff.
Taken in the theater, didn't we, Bob?
Probably. Makes sense.
I think so.
Makes sense.
My
New Line Cinema executives originally balked at the film's ending, but like I mentioned, Brad Pitt refused to make the movie if they changed it. I don't know what they were trying to change it to. All of John Doe's books were real books written for the film. They took 2 months to complete and cost $15,000. And according to Morgan Freeman in the movie, he says like 20 cops reading 24 hours a day would take like 2 months to get through all these books, which is insane.
Wait, so
What? Yeah, what?
why would they do that?
Well,
I don't know.
yeah.
It seems totally
God.
unnecessary, right? I wonder if
Seems
that's
like a
just
terrible-
Is that a
bullshit.
Fincher
Way
thing?
to spend on
Maybe.
budget.
Could be, yeah.
Someone write all
$15,000.
this and we'll never look at it.
Yeah, we saw what, like like 3 or 4 pages on screen.
Yeah,
something like that.
He
Yeah.
reads like 5 lines.
I wonder if you could find one of those on eBay for like $20 right now. That'd be pretty cool.
I would definitely buy it if I could found one on eBay for $20, and I
Yeah.
could definitely fake one up, and you can buy one from me.
Okay.
That too for $20.
Selling now on the straight chill.
I didn't agree to the
Make
20
one
bucks,
up. You're
but-
gonna handwrite a 255 page.
I didn't say I was going to write anything.
Yes, you did,
Child labor
Randy.
exists.
I'm
Oh,
gonna pay some child in India.
Write some fucked up
Yes.
shit, kid, and
Write some English.
I want to make $20 about it. Okay.
All about lusting. That's rich.
All right, kid.
I'll pay you $1, $1 American dollar.
I'm not paying you to hyperventilate over there. Right.
There's more. There's much more. So for the gluttony scene, 7 crates of cockroaches were released on the set and poured onto the actor Bob Mack, who was wearing the the big dude prosthesis.
I would be so bummed about
I would be too.
Yeah.
They had to like plug
Let's
his
just
ears
dump
up.
some cockroaches on this man.
Jesus Christ. They had to plug his ears up, his ears and nose, so the roaches wouldn't crawl up in there. But apparently they found their way down into his shorts, which is even worse.
Dude, that's
I
so
would say.
gross. That's gross.
Yeah,
Get out of here, you nosy little pervert, or I'm gonna slap you silly.
exactly.
Hope he wore his butt plug that day.
Gotta
Never
plug
leave
the
home
orifice.
without it.
You never can tell.
Oh God, they're getting in my butthole.
I'm shocked. Not in the good way.
Oh my
Also
God.
apparently on the DVD commentary, Fincher says he felt bad for the actor who had to wear all the big, hot, heavy gluttony prosthetics. So to compensate, he made him very well endowed. I didn't notice that he had a big honking hog in the movie.
Me neither.
Apparently he did.
David Fincher.
What? So I made him well.
That's so ridiculous.
This will
What
really
the
help you out after
This
the
big
movie
rubber
comes
wiener
out.
will make you feel great about
Big old
yourself.
doinks.
Just
What a weird thing.
That is, I feel like maybe it's just true, like in the room, like it was never shown on camera, but it's like, hey, but I gave you a big dick, so
you're
Hey.
welcome.
Another prosthetic for me.
now get back in there for 75 takes of you lying face down in some cereal.
Yeah.
Big old doinks and Amish. Before Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt were cast, Al Pacino and Denzel Washington were early choices for Somerset and Mills. Pacino declined because he was already scheduled to film City Hall, which came out in 1996, and Washington turned down the offer, saying it'd just be too dark. Both actors later expressed regret for not taking the role.
And then Denzel Washington did Training Day, which is not dark at all.
No, that movie's so fucked up.
Maybe he learned his lesson. Maybe he's like,
Yeah.
fuck it, I'm going dark.
I'm doing it. I'm doing it.
Yeah, why not? I haven't seen that movie, but
One of
Dude,
his most
watch
memorable
Training Day.
roles. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, that movie's fun.
so I'm told.
King Kong got shit on me, etc.
Okay.
Yeah, so apparently in Orthodox Christianity, despair is considered the 8th deadly sin, which would then fit with Somerset's world-weary attitude. I've never heard of this before. Have
Me
you all?
neither.
An eighth deadly sin?
Allegedly.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
Hey, 7 is supposed to be like the number of God, though, right?
Yeah, I think so. And it's
That I don't know.
lucky number 11, right?
Mm-hmm.
REM's Michael Stipe was briefly considered for the role of John Doe, which is weird.
Man, he really just wanted a bald guy. That would have made sense. So, like, honestly, they kind of have a similar, like
Yeah, they do. have
like
a weird
eerie
look,
cadence or whatever.
you know.
Yeah.
Instead, he got the real pederast.
The real
Not
creeper,
pederast,
yeah.
actually. Wait, no, yeah. Anyway,
think
I don't know.
Maybe.
I
In
think
a
it's-
technical sense,
He was
maybe.
exonerated, I think.
Yeah,
at
I-
least
yeah, I
in
think he
trial.
was-
So I don't know.
alleged.
Yeah,
pedophile.
I don't know enough
alleged.
about this topic. I
I don't know either.
I just shouldn't have stepped into that.
Thanks, Randy, for fucking it up.
Thanks, Randy.
Yeah, well, fuck me. That's fine.
In 2002, New Line Cinema proposed a sequel named 8, which would be spelled EI, the number 8, HT. That would be based on a repurposed spec script titled Solace by Ted Griffin about a psychic serial killer who was pursued by a similarly psychic detective, which would be Somerset. The idea was abandoned after principal cast and crew, including Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt, expressed no intention to return for a sequel. David Fincher went on to say, quote, I would be less interested in that than I would be in having cigarettes put out in my eyes. The script was then later made into a standalone thriller named Solace, came out in 2015, and was a critical and commercial failure. I've not seen it.
Yeah.
Neat.
Hey,
I haven't seen that either.
I mean, another reason why 7 is much, much different than Saw, which we just found out we're getting number 11.
11.
Dude, that's exactly what happened with American Psycho is they made that fucking shitty Mila Kunis sequel that was a totally different script made to be a totally different movie. And they just said, hey, you know what? We have this name.
Slap it on there.
Put
whatever.
the name on there. And we'll do some lip service to Bateman at the beginning. And that'll be that.
They did that with
Oh,
Chud
God.
2, Bud the Chud. We all know how that came out.
Well, Bud the Chud is
Great.
like ground zero for that method.
Thanks, Bud the Chud. I got one
Turned
more
out
bit of
great.
trivia, and then I'm done here. So Gwyneth Paltrow's fake severed head was actually created for this movie. They ended up not showing it in the film. They thought it would be too gruesome. So the head sat on a shelf for years until Steven Soderbergh's Contagion, which was released in 2011, found a use for Paltrow's severed head. I guess there is an autopsy scene in that movie, and they use the fake head in that.
Cool.
There you go.
Wow.
Yes.
Cool, probably.
It's nice to know that it actually was made because they leave the film to be ambiguous, which is fine with me. Everybody knows it's in the box, but
yes. You don't need to see it. They say it is, and
yeah,
like,
you don't need to see. Yeah, so
he knows what she looks like. So he's like, yeah, that's Tracy.
That
oh,
is my wife's head.
Yes.
In a box.
All right, yeah, that's all I got for trivia. Let's get into Cooter of the week.
Straight chillin'. Cooter of the week.
Juice, what is a Cooter and why do we hunt them?
Oh, Cooter's a character type and a straight chillin' exclusive. Cooter has to hit 3 of these 5 points to be considered a Cooter, but we want the Cooter with the most points. The 5 points of Cooterdom are sexual deviance, manipulation, smug arrogance, overall looking attire, and overall patheticness. Boys, we got John Doe over here.
It's like our 5 Cooter sins, you know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, John Doe.
We have a method.
Sure. That's going to be our straight chillin' movie we're making. 5.
Let's start
Directed
with
by
Johnny.
David Fincher.
That would be tight.
Here's the thing is like with John, I want like starting with like sexual deviance. Clearly, he does some shit that would qualify on the action, but the reason he gives for doing that thing is out of repulsion for that. So I don't know. Like I think that's still deviance, but I just want to.
Well, it does because he forces someone. Even if you took away the murder aspect of it, he forces someone to have sex with somebody else. At that point, that's sexual deviance.
Yes, I think we can give that to him.
But it's not because he enjoys it, although it also is because he enjoys it.
He does enjoy it. Yeah.
So, okay, I just want to like show that there's a little bit
sexually
of deviant,
even if you had some kind of like sexual repression, like you could be doing something for sexual purposes. Yeah. So, yeah. Check over.
Smug arrogance out the asshole.
Oh my God. Yes.
I mean, only a few of us are chosen by God, and John, you are not one of us.
Honestly, I'm starting to think that Jesus Christ. I'm starting to think that that arrogance is maybe like the most important component of a Cooter. I don't know. I don't want to put more weight on anything.
They often do. I feel like we have, I don't know. Some are sniveling, pathetic Cooters, though, that aren't very arrogant.
Okay, sure.
Like a Renfield.
So it's got to be one or the other almost. Like,
yeah, you could
not
follow
both.
Well, that's like patheticness usually follows most of these things, though, too. So, like, all right, sexual I mean, like the whole ethos, the whole thing that he's doing or whatever, it's a pretty pathetic rejection of humanity. Like, it's just a fucking. I don't know.
Especially like I said, it's kind of like one thing to be like, I mean, I guess it's not, I don't think this way, but I mean, you know, like this lawyer, he lets criminals out, so I'm going to kill him. But just to be like, this is a big old fat dude. He is really.
Well, it's pathetic to be like, I was chosen by God to implement this glorious plan.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you wouldn't even be alive if I had not pathetic. Let you live.
Yeah.
Just to like self-inflate to that extreme point of view, I think is pathetic.
I kind of agree. Like the massive arrogance. It's like the Jeremiah Sand conundrum. Like, simultaneously the most arrogant son of a bitch in the world, and then when he's caught in a corner, he offers to suck your dick to get out of it. So
he jerks off to a song that he wrote about himself. Which
so
is
I mean,
all been there.
Arrogant and pathetic as hell.
I think you kind of have to have some sort of balancing act between those two components, but pathetic always follows. It seems like
John Doe's attire is like normal clothes.
It's nothing because he's John Doe.
Yeah.
It's an aesthetic choice, though. I'm going to go by John Doe.
Jonathan.
Manipulation, of course. Duh.
Jonathan Doe Treve.
Put him in the put him in the cell.
He's got
done.
4 out of 5.
Yeah, he's
Easy.
got 4 out of 5.
Easy.
Looking attire is the only thing he didn't really hit on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
John Doe. Got him.
I forgot to mention this line. I think I wrote it down though. If he had done this, then we could have got him on that one. But him, like, Brad Pitt describing him like, he's some psycho who's probably dancing around in his grandma's panties, rubbing peanut butter on himself. I was like, damn, that sounds like
that's a
wild
party.
time.
I'd like to be invited to that party.
That's some shit to
good
see
shit.
right there. Peanut butter, like, isn't peanut butter very oily? I assume if you rubbed your body,
that's why you
down
get
So
the
is-
50% fat content.
Okay.
Okay.
You want the oils, sex oils. I mean, that's a thing.
Oh yeah, but all over your body, it'd be so hard to clean.
You're worrying about the aftermath. You never worry about.
You
the
want it to be
aftermath.
more
There's-
difficult to get off. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying.
Okay,
Let's so
no
that's
follow up on that.
that's it, right? We Cooter of
That's
the week
Yes,
done.
Yeah,
Got him.
Fuck the rest. Yeah.
Fuck the rest. All right. Oh boys, let's do like a lightning round. What we've been watching. Let's do it.
Hey gang, what you been watching?
Randy, what you been watching?
How lightning is lightning.
faster than that.
I have actually a long list here. So in my Christmas movie category, I finally got around to watching some true Christmas movies here. I watched Home Alone 2. I watched Scrooged. I watched Gremlins. I hadn't seen Gremlins in a long time, man. Maybe not since we reviewed it. It's a good movie. The Sacrifice Game I watched. Meh. It's a Wonderful
Same.
Knife I watched. Meh.
Same.
And I did watch The Killer, Fincher's newest film. A little middling for him,
all right.
I think. It's not bad, but it's still tightly controlled and all that shit, and the performances are great, but it kind of left kind of nothing on the table for me to think about, which is strange. At least nothing that I noticed. All right, so those are those ones. Okay, the Dream Scenario, the new Nick Cage movie. I watched that. I enjoyed it, but I don't know that it knows what it's trying to say. Yeah, I think it's a little bit confused. I also watched
the 6th movie this year or some shit.
At least
Probably, I
third.
don't know.
At least.
Renfield for
dude. Renfield, and then that
Sympathy
devil
for the
thing,
devil.
and
Oh, yeah. I don't know, but
a lot.
he's a prolific man. I also watched a stand-up special from Stavros Halkias on Netflix. That man can really paint a grotesque, disgusting picture with his words. It's a lot. Also watched sort of like a retrospective on the career of Albert Brooks. I think it was on HBO. Albert Brooks Defending My Life. I enjoyed that quite a lot. Albert Brooks is a very funny man. And then let's see. Is there anything else? No, actually, that's all of it.
Nice. That was quick as shit, Randy. Juice. What you been watching?
I also watch Scrooged. People like that more than I do, I think, generally. It's okay. I think it kind of sucks a lot of the charminess and magic out of the original story. It's a little too, like, I don't know, updated. So I watched that one. I watched a new film called Good Boy, which is, I don't know, some kind of European film, maybe some kind of Scandinavian, I think. And
Something
then,
weird.
But it's about a girl who meets this guy on a dating app. She kind of hits it off with him and then finds out that he lives with another man who dresses as a dog and all the time. So yeah, kind of spooky stuff going on there. I've been watching, I watched Memento, for the first time. And to be honest, was a little underwhelmed by that one. You know what it kind of reminded me of? Kind of reminded me of like Nolan's Reservoir Dogs. It kind of gave that feel to me. I don't know why. But yeah, I watched that and it was okay. Guy
You
Pearce
mean
also kind of
Tarantino's Reservoir Dogs? I think you said
Well,
Nolan.
Well, Nolan
It's his
wrote,
version of it.
well, Nolan
It's
wrote,
his version of it.
yeah, it's Nolan's version of Reservoir Dogs.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Gotcha.
Yeah. So, anyways, on Tubi, they have a pup named Scooby Doo. So I watched a couple episodes, and one of them was a winter one, where there was like a snow demon or something. It was a ski slope spoof, though. I know we kind of mentioned that, I think, last week. But yeah, that show has some awesome music. I really like a pup named Scooby Doo. It's fun. I watched another new film, Attachment. And this is a horror film. It's on Shudder, and I was actually really surprised by this one because it was like Jewish horror, and we do not get
Oh, really?
like any Jewish horror movies. Yeah.
What's it
and
called?
Attachment. It's on Shudder.
Attachment.
It was good. I would recommend people check it out. Slow burn, slow as in the sense like it kind of reminded me of something like House of the Devil or something. Like it takes its time, but it builds some good characters and some good lore and stuff, but it is slow, but I liked it. I liked it a lot, actually. And then finally, Love Actually for Christmas time, and pour one out for old Alan Rickman, man. But yeah, it's a charming little movie, and Christmas time, yeah. Bob, what you been watching, my guy?
Yo. I watched The Sacrifice Game on Shudder. It's a new Christmas horror joint directed by Jen Wexler. It's okay. It felt a little too familiar, I think. It started off kind of strong, but it petered out a little for me towards the
weirdly
end.
predictable.
It is, yeah.
Insanely predictable.
That's all right. I also watched The Night Before, which is that Christmas comedy that came out, I don't know, like maybe a decade ago. It's got Joseph Gordon-Levitt in it, Rogan, and Mackie, who's in like all the Marvel movies and shit. Have you guys seen that?
Mm-mm.
No, I almost watched it yesterday. I hovered on it.
I like it a lot. It's not like the funniest shit I've ever seen, but it's pretty damn funny. It kept me laughing pretty consistently, and it's one that I'll probably will be like an annual watch for me. It's definitely worth checking out, I think. I did revisit Pontypool on Shudder as well. It's been years since I'd seen that, and I kind of forgot the point of it, and then upon a rewatch, it's a super interesting movie, and definitely worth checking out. It's like not a Christmas movie necessarily, but it takes place in Canada during the winter, so it's like, there's like a winter storm that rolls in, so you got kind of winter vibes. It's a decent time to watch it.
There's no one Christmas tree in the background somewhere.
We'll watch that during January, Bob, when we watch Misery, okay?
And The Shining, and yeah, smart.
That's
and The Lodge.
January horror.
And The Lodge.
Nobody will
And The
ever...
Lodge, of course.
No, The Lodge is Christmas.
The Lodge. God, The Lodge is doo-doo brown. Pontypool's pretty solid, though. I started watching season 5 of Fargo, and I'm about halfway through with the season, I believe, and it's solid. That show is just consistently badass. Every season of it's pretty solid.
I need to watch that shit.
It's good, man. This one has. I'll pitch it with if you think you'd be into John Hamm sitting naked in a hot tub with his titties pierced, just wearing a cowboy hat is for you, then watch Fargo season 5. It's
Well, I don't know if that is, but I hope that doesn't dissuade me from watching it.
It's also got I don't know the actor's name, but the dude that plays Steve in Stranger Things, Steve the babysitter or whatever, he's in season 5 Fargo, and he plays this like backwoods sheriff that is the biggest piece of shit you've ever seen in your life, and he does a great job. You hate his guts. It's awesome.
Glad to see that dude get work and do a good job with it.
Yeah, dude, he does a great job. Everybody in the show does a great job, and I've been digging it quite a bit.
Literally everybody that I know that watches that show says it's one of the best shows they've ever seen. Like, consistently.
really good.
And there's not even like a True Detective-y, like, oh, that season's no good, but the rest are good. Like,
Yeah.
it's very intriguing to me.
They take years off in between each season, so it's just kind of whenever somebody has a script, I guess, that's good. I don't know, because I don't even think it's written by the same group of folks. I don't think, anyways. Different directors, but it's each season is independent of one another. So if you wanted to just jump in with season 5, you can, and it's fine.
I was kind of thinking of doing that, yeah.
And I think it's only like 6 episodes, so it's not like a massive time commitment either. Anyway, it's good.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty much all I've been watching this week. Let's jump into our last segment here, which is, of course, our Hotline Screams.
Hotline Screams.
If you are listening and would like to call in and leave a voicemail to be featured on next week's show, hit us up at 904-638-3231. We got a couple voicemails here. First up, we're going to hear from Steve. Let's hear what he's got to say.
Hey, fellas. It's Steve. It's been a while since I've called. I'm still out here. I'm still here. I didn't go away. Just haven't called in a while. Funny little story. Maybe funny is not the right word. It's not funny. Don't get your hopes up. Coincidental, I guess. So I saw Godzilla -1 this weekend. I actually saw it twice. Holy shit. What? I'm going to curse a lot. What a fucking phenomenal movie. Holy shit. I was blown away. I think it's the best movie I've seen this year. I haven't seen too many, but regardless, it was absolutely fantastic. I loved it. I thought it was so good. I could go on and on, but I won't. Anyway, that kind of started me on the this Godzilla kick, and I had never seen Shin Godzilla. So I watched that the other night, and I thought, I'll bet the guys have an episode about it. So I searched through, I listened to it, and then at the end, during the voicemail section, you say, okay, we got a call from Steve. I'm like, huh. Guess there's another Steve out there. And lo and behold, no shit. It was me. It was me from episode 203, I think. The first episode where the song was introduced, which I believe is now since retired. What a coincidence, right? Couldn't believe it. So that gave me a chuckle. Also, recently, I have absolutely boarded the physical media train. It's getting rough out there. I think we need to own this shit. Corporations, damn it. Streaming rights. Censorship. It's terrible. Okay. Love you guys. Have a good holiday. Take care. Bye.
All right. That guy's definitely high on the straight chillin' drug.
He's got to save his own life now.
What a crazy coincidence. Yeah.
That is wild.
Yeah, that is nuts.
Yeah, that was the episode where we started his song and he'd called in and crazy.
Yeah.
If you guys are newer listeners, we used to have a segment towards the end of the show each week where I would talk about all the Blu-rays that I purchased and get berated because the number was off in March.
Where did Bob go wrong? Were he and his friends sifting way too long through those Blu-ray bins? And it gets worse, he'll have no jet ski, wasting all his dough on those DVDs.
And Steve provided the song.
Gotta see if that we can get that performed live at our 500th episode.
Yeah, you have to update it to rhyme with Blu-ray though, or 4K,
4K,
or whatever. 10 box,
4K
whatever.
steelbook import. Can you rhyme that?
What rhymes with blue gold?
Blue gold.
Just go.
Wow.
I need a fresh disc pulled straight off the vine.
So yeah, you gotta make a new song, an updated version there, Steve. Putting you to work, man. That is a wild coincidence, though, for sure.
Yeah.
Glad you like Godzilla -1. That shit's really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
Good to hear from
our
you.
review.
Yeah, from last week, 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
What is time?
Something like that.
I don't know.
It was last week.
Cool.
Who fucking knows?
I don't know where I am. Glad you're doing well, Steve. Always good to hear from you, brother. Don't be a stranger. Next up, we're going to hear from Jim. Let's see what he's got to say.
Hey, fellows and children around the globe. It's G Baby calling in to give my thoughts on recent episode on G-1, which I have not seen, but thoroughly enjoyed hearing you guys rap about it. Miles, you're a scholar and a baller. Well done, my G. So all that Zilla nipple talk towards the end of the episode there had me thinking about the representation of the cloaca in the film, which was curiously absent from the discussion. And that's fine. That's fine. But it got me thinking, how fucking sick would it be if old Godmang had like a secondary fire atomic ass blast come out of his south mouth? Even like if it were like a countermeasure, like chaff from a jet fighter. Dope, right? So get the writers on it for the next one there. Time crunch. Okay, 7 deadly sins. Lastly, here we go. Me, easy, gluttony, both for punishment, and I could put away some fucking food, I tell you what. Soju, easy, lust, straight chilling after dark, need I say more. Next, Randy, wrath, based solely on his opinions of the Underworld series, Bloodshart and the Pants of America et al. And finally, old Bobo, I'm gonna go Envy due to your Blu-ray 4K titanium case affliction. The disc is always bluer, as they say. Smoking big dogs and Amish. Later, guys.
Nice.
That's a key to getting a laugh from Bob, is just quoting the big dogs and Amish.
So much.
Also, I thought he called you Obama for a minute. I don't know if you guys heard that too.
I did.
And Obama, what? Obama's which sin?
That's my new nickname. If you didn't know.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. We don't need to pursue that any further. Oh,
Let's go ahead and nip that in the butt.
Cool.
Wrath. Everybody thinks I'm so wrathful. I should kill them for that.
Yeah, that's on point. That's on point. I'm surprised nobody said greed for Bob with all the blues. Man wants more and more blues.
I mean,
but good call,
Fucking
baby.
idiot.
Overall, good call though.
Yeah, solid.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, it looks like we're all going to hell, boys.
The
Wow, sure.
The cloaca should have been discussed for sure, and I think honestly, G Baby should just be tapped to help write. I'm sure what will become Godzilla -2, and help him out on that script.
Focus on that cloaca. Really zoom in.
Just get
Maybe
in there.
maybe it could propel him into the air.
Maybe they got to fly a helicopter up into the cloaca, and he explodes from the ass.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, Randy Quaid flies a submarine and says, "I'm home!" Right up the cloaca.
10 stars out of 5. Would be so stoked about that. Oh, man. Thanks for calling in, Jim. Always good to hear from you.
Let's get him in that Japanese.
Yep.
Well, he can't come back to America at this point, so.
Yeah. Well, I wonder what he's doing right now.
No, you don't.
No, I don't want to know.
You don't want it.
So the abyss looks also into you, Bob, as we know.
I don't want to know. He's parked his camper on his cousin's lawn somewhere. Yeah, that's all the voicemails we got. Again, if you guys are listening, want to call in and leave one for next week, hit us up at 904-638-3231. You guys have any prompts you want to throw out there?
Not a thing.
Next week it's our Christmas episode.
Yeah, Christmas episode.
Call
what do
in
you
with
want
all
for
your
Christmas, little boys and girls?
Well, and it's our last episode before Christmas hits. So this is your last chance to talk anything about Christmas. What's your favorite Christmas snacks? What are you wanting for Christmas this year?
Besides dildos, of course.
What do you think the best gift that you're giving this year is? Like what's one of those gifts you're just so stoked that you got somebody else?
That's a
Any
good question.
Christmas.
I
Christmas
love
stuff.
buying a good gift for somebody. It's the best.
Yeah.
Right on. Yeah. Call in with your Christmas stuff, whatever it is. Presents, snacks. Did you sit on Santa's lap? Did you get a weird photograph taken at the mall? Let us know.
Did you see his candy cane?
Candy cane.
Hit us up, 904-638-3231. Next week, we're going to be talking about the winner of the December poll, which was U-Log. That is on Max currently. I'm not sure if you can rent it or if you can see it anywhere else, to be honest. I know it's on Max.
No, it might be on so much is on Amazon Prime. I'd be a little bit surprised if it wasn't for pay, but I can't tell you that for sure.
Yeah,
it's definitely on Max for now.
Yeah, it's on Max. It's a new release. Came out last year around Christmas time. It's super fucking weird and interesting, and if you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. It'll be unlike anything you've seen all year.
Yes.
Yule log. Slam it into your eyeballs. Get ready for next week's show. Until then, you can find us on all the social medias. Just search Straight Chilling Podcast. We'll pop right up. If you want to join in our daily Slack channel conversations, hit me up on one of those social media outlets, and I'll send you a link so you can do so. Don't forget about our Joe Bob watch party this Friday, and of course the You Pick the Flick tier opening this Sunday. Until next week, as always, all you mother truckers, please keep chilling.
Oh, you quack!